This is Waypoint. This is a new Twitter Spaces dedicated to Web3 gaming and all things related to Web3 gaming. It's graciously co-produced by United Gamers and Sanctor Capital. I will be a host. My name is Ilya. I am one of the co-founders and partners at Sanctor Capital. So before we get started, I have to get through all of the disclosures that are mandatory. We are being recorded, and after the talk is done, it will be posted as a podcast episode on the major podcast platforms, so you can share and re-listen after the fact. As always, none of this is investment advice or legal advice, and Sanctor Capital and or myself, we may have positions or be interested in having positions in some of the companies and our assets mentioned throughout the talk. And for full disclosure, we are backing United Gamers, who will also be taking part as part of the talk. So without further ado, I want to start introducing some of the great speakers that we have on today and get this conversation going. So speakers, I'll kind of name you one by one. If you could kind of shortly introduce yourself, and then we'll start our conversation. So Lena, you are first on my screen, so could you start off and give us an introduction?
Sure. Thank you, Ilya. Great to be here. So I'm a game developer. I've been in the game industry for about 17 plus years now. And I started my first game company 2010, which was acquired 5 years later by a social media company. So we've been kind of transforming from originally first mobile gaming, then PC gaming, then social gaming. So Quicksave Interactive, the company that I'm currently founder and CEO of, was founded in 2017. And Quicksave has been focusing on the Web 2, so the kind of social applications and publishing HTML5 based games within those platforms. And now recently, last year, we started to shift towards the Web 3. So for us, it's still HTML5 and kind of web-based gaming, but kind of going from Web 2 platforms to Web 3 now. And it's great to be in this space now. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ishiki, you're up next.
Yeah, hi, happy to meet everyone. I'm Ishiki, otherwise known as Paul from the Equinox Guild. We're essentially a one-stop shop for gaming projects that includes advisory, our launchpad, and our guild. Our guild is really about bringing blockchain to gaming, so happy to be here and have a talk about Web3 with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. RJ, you want to introduce yourself next?
So hi, I'm RJ Jacinto. I'm one of the co-founders of United Gamers. Actually, I came from an esports background, been in the esports industry for more than 10 years already, and now I'm diving into Web3.
Awesome. Kajo?
Yeah, good day, everyone. My name is Kajo, and with my brief background, I specialized before in Web 2 with regards to events catering to different games and platforms. So right now, similar to RJ, I'm a co-founder of United Gamers. And yeah, looking forward to this talk as well.
Awesome. Rodrigo, Moonray?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rodrigo. I am the founder of Moonray, and we are building a PvP game in Unreal Engine 5 on Ethereum.
Awesome. Thank you. Roadville?
Hi, I'm Roadville. I'm a live streamer, and also we're partnering with the United Gamers Guild for in making tournaments, especially in the esports side, where we're exploring the Web3 games in doing the tournaments.
Awesome. And last but not least, Rob?
Hi guys, nice to meet everyone. So I'm Rob Luna. I'm also an influencer. I work together, or rather work closely together with Rod Phil on helping United Gamers on their esports side. So we basically help them organize the tournament on Web3, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited to know everyone's perspective here on the Web3 game.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. And so I want to start. We have a lot of people with diverse backgrounds, and so I want to start with kind of a broad topic of what is Web3 gaming. People have kind of all sorts of definitions, and so I'd like for our speakers to kind of share their opinions on what Web3 gaming means to them. Anybody can jump in. There's no particular order. So if you have something to say, just go ahead and say it.
Well, I can go with the kind of obvious answer here. I'm with a nerd background on the on the computer science, so I'm looking at the definition fairly technically, and as what the web has been evolving from Web 1, very static experiences, to Web 2, where everything started to be user generated, and now we have Web 3 with the distributed databases and well, the blockchain. So yeah, for me, it's been great to kind of learn the possibilities of this new technology and how can we use that to the advantage of the gamers and the players within the games.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other perspectives?
Yeah, I look
Fine.
at Web3 more from like different scenarios and viewpoints, right? Like Web3 brings to venture capital funds, for example, and game projects, it brings a lot more flexibility for funding, which previously hasn't been the case in the traditional funding market. So now game projects are actually able to fund their own games via token sales and NFT sales. And it also allows guilds such as us to come in and cooperate with these gaming projects via capital, via marketing, and also providing the player base to actually play the game, which is very important. In the viewpoint of players, actually, it allows the ownership and the value creation in game for players, so that the time that I personally, as a gamer, have fought to be wasted for 10 years, maybe it's not wasted because they can actually create the value and transfer it and trade it for money in game. And also, I think there's a big thing about the accessibility in these games, because a lot of the play and earn blockchain games are coming with WebGL, which actually allows people to play the games from the browser, which is important because we are in the crypto space, and crypto has not been adopted by everyone, especially not in the traditional gaming space. But moving to WebGL for a lot of these projects actually balances things out and allows gamers to much more easily pick up these games, not having to go to Steam, not having to verify via Gmail or whatever, but instead just either playing for free or connecting their wallet to the game. So it brings various benefits to everyone.
Kadjo, I think you wanted to say something else as well.
Yeah, I think Ishiki has covered most of it, but based on my perspective, it's more on having ownership, real ownership of the assets that you're purchasing, particular in game we're in. Regardless if the game dies down or continues to grow, you could assure 100% that you own the asset and it's not on the developer side. So it's a good point of view in terms of accountability and ownership.
Hi. So for me, Web3 is like we're on the brink of a new era for gaming, in my opinion, because I never thought that there will come a time that gamers will be disempowered with regards to gaming. Like they can control even the game itself. So because of this decentralization for Web3, so yeah, for me this is like the dawn of a new era for gaming.
Alina, I think you got interrupted. I think you wanted to say something else.
And well, just like echoing that, yes, I do agree that on the points actually raised that these are some of the good things that the technology allows to manifest, and definitely agree on the WebGL being a good platform.
I wanted to kind of follow up on something Ishiki said. We mentioned kind of, a few of the speakers mentioned a lot of the good things that, Web3 gaming brings to kind of users. But at the same time, there have been a lot of challenges and there's been some pushback, both from kind of traditional gamers and studios as well. Where do you see the challenges and why do you see there are challenges with kind of onboarding both users and gaming studios into the Web3 space?
So there's one common issue that I see throughout traditional gamers is they're looking at big name companies in the traditional gaming space, and they're seeing that those companies are going into Web3 and NFTs, and honestly, looking at the reactions, it's really just previous bad marketing by those companies that as soon as they say, hey, we're going into NFTs, gamers immediately have a bad reaction to it, which is not necessarily founded in reality. So that's sort of what I would like to open with is sort of big players like Ubisoft, Square Enix that have previously Activisions that have previously had bad PR with gamers just simply because coming out with endless DLCs, unfinished games, etc. So that's a trend that gamers have been seeing, and now that those companies are coming into Web3, they immediately had a bad sort of smell about it, I would say.
Well, I could just say maybe a couple of things. I also think that gamers are justified in the criticisms of Web3 right now, because the Web3 industry is very immature. From my perspective, there are very few games in Web3. There are a lot of DeFi projects, and gamers don't want to play a DeFi project. They want to play a game. So if you look at a lot of the things that are out there, you look at it from basically, if this was a Web2 project, would it succeed? And I would say 99% of the industry, it's a big no. And if it's not fun, who's going to play it? And gamers don't care about staking. Gamers don't care. Gamers are not financial speculators with a spreadsheet. They want something that is fun. And I think that's a lot of the problem with the industry right now is like a lot of people are coming in it from the NFT side or something like that. Or look, it's an asset. It's an asset. Yes, it's an asset, but that's only an enabling technology. The game itself has to be fun. And until the industry, until we fix that, gamers are going to be very skeptical, and they're going to be justified in being skeptical.
Yeah, I have to jump in and totally agree with that statement. The games that we're seeing right now in the space are really more oriented towards the financial incentive. They're not really oriented towards gamers yet because there's just not fun gameplay, and there's a lot of algorithms to try and make the economy sustainable. But those really are economies where they're trying to make everyone win. And in games, that's just not possible. Games are competitive, and in games, people are rewarded that really, actually do well in those games. And that's something that is truly missing right now in the space.
Yeah, I agree on the previous points, and could add that kind of overall the discussion among developers and gamers have become very polarized. But I think that's also kind of the sign of the times. Like every topic right now tends to become very polarized. But it's also just difficult to have some of those conversations on the future of the space, on like what are the possibilities when they're so big sometimes, like for or against views either direction, like very strongly.
So what's currently missing, and where's kind of the disconnect? A lot of times where you hear the criticism that the game is more kind of geared towards financial elements rather than being fun. But then when you talk to kind of new developer studios, all of them are saying we're building a game that's there to be fun, right? So kind of what are the elements that you see that are like missing from a lot of the games right now, and how do you communicate with a new type of gamer, right? Because I think there could be a case made that the Web3 gamer is not necessarily the same as the Web2 gamer.
Well, I'll go first real quick. I mean, I think right now the Web3 gamer and the Web2 gamer are different, but I think that will change over time. And there's not going to be such a thing as blockchain gaming. It's just going to be gaming, but it's going to take a little while to get there. I think that we have to learn. We look at blockchain as a technology for economic transactions, and we have to see at what point do you have economic transactions in a game. And there are some points where that's justified, but there's a lot of points where it's not, and that's a balance that like every game has to figure out for itself. But making a game like a fun game, that takes many years. And right now there's kind of like a bit of a gold rush, and I don't know. A lot of people think you can just kind of jump in and make a game, and 6 months later you have a prototype. But it takes a really long time to polish gameplay, get feedback from your community, and make sure that everything's actually working. And that's something where I think projects need to start taking more of a long-term attitude. get ready for a long-term development cycle. The typical game takes 4 or 5 years to develop. These aren't short projects, and so people have to organize their projects with that in mind, and not this, hey, we're doing an NFT launch next month, and then don't worry, there's a game coming at some point. It's like, no, if you do an NFT launch, you better have a game right afterwards, because if you think that you can do an NFT launch and then develop a game is a multi-year project.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Project started to try to be part of this gaming rush as early as possible, and as we all know, gaming takes years to develop, and some of the biggest games have thousands of employees, and there are, however, good news, and we see a lot of projects coming in that have already developed their game. Maybe they weren't as successful in the Web2 space, right? But there's an opportunity for those games to come over to blockchain.
I'm curious to hear a little bit from kind of Roadfill and Rob about kind of, because you interact a lot with kind of the Web3 gamer right now. Kind of what do you see from those gamers? What is it that they're looking for?
Well, I'm gonna be talking about like as a streamer perspective. All right. First of all, most, if not all, of the gamers, specifically on the Philippines, did really jump into, I would say, on the Web3 game or this genre, is because they thought that they would. It's like a get rich scheme, something like that. Just for transparency, they really thought that whenever I'm gonna get, well, while I am enjoying the game, I'm already getting richer, or probably getting profit out of it. But in the long run, as we've seen it, coming from 2021, of course, it's I would say a bull market. That's the first time I've heard of it, because I'm not a trader uh, by nature. So I would say most gamers did really jump in, or rather, the term of it was like FOMO'd in, because wow, I could actually gain money just simply by playing. But in the long run, as time progresses, so we're already like a year from the time that it was been from the bull market. Now we're in a bear market, and people are starting to lose interest. And this is where I would say where the real gamers are really shining on, because they really don't really need, if they earn, that's okay. But now we are seeing a few less gamers, but I've seen someone who's very resilient, like the streamers right now, specifically for Axie Infinity, that they just simply play the game and they just enjoy it. So I mean, there is in between like a transition of gamers from the Web 2 jumping into Web 3, and it just being there on the space, and they're really, or rather most of us are trying to grasp on how can we actually work on the Web 3 game that's not gonna make us poor in the long run. It's like we just want what we felt like playing Web 2 games, just simply enjoying it and not thinking about if I'm gonna earn on it or not. So for me, Web 3 is I forgot who told said earlier, it's very immature right now. So I believe that moving or educational influencers that gonna really teach us on how to, at least how to navigate the Web3 on the right way.
Yeah, I agree with Rob, and I think for my understanding, Web3 games should be involved. There's many people should be involved for that, because it's like you can own the game, and you have to also you have to also invest, and but the problem is there are so many games that are promising games, but the longevity or the consistency is not enough. So I guess there is a need for more improvements with those games.
Thank you for that insight. I want to follow up on that, right? So we've had a lot of monikers in the space. We've had play to earn, then we had play and earn. We have play to own. All kind of trying to kind of work on this theme of, you play and there's some additional value. This is addressed to all the speakers. Where do you think is the right path, and where do you think we're going?
Yeah, I think as we mentioned previously, it really has to, the gameplay experience really has to be enhanced. Games have to be fun to play, and the financial incentive is sort of like a cherry on top, right? Even if the financial incentive wasn't there, the game still has to be fun to play, and you have to have achievements within the game. One of the evolutions that I can see that doesn't really exist in blockchain gaming is really social gaming, right? Because when you concentrate on a competitive game where really the good players that are really putting in their value, their time and effort in the game, where those get rewarded, you all of a sudden have a competitive space, and you can go into esports, which opens the door to social gamings and guilds to compete against each other.
Yeah, I also see that the social gaming space where I kind of come from has a lot to offer and transform to this space as well. I mean, not all games have to be in the future as competitive as they currently tend to be. But I definitely agree on the previous, what I think Mr. Smulray was saying, that the games take long time to build. Like good quality experience will take years. And we actually, well, last week we launched the first Desktopia Battles game, but in some ways that launch is still like a beginning, because then you get to do all the live ops and adding features and also like listening to the community on things to evolve. So games are definitely long projects, and they are evolving projects, and that I see happening in the space, and that will bring the quality of the gameplay to the level that it's kind of outside the Web3 gaming. I mean, there's no reason why it wouldn't be at the same level of enjoyment as in any other platform.
Yeah, for me, I agree with Ishik as what he said. The economic incentive should be just a cherry on top, not the direct result of playing. So for me, it's play and earn. I mean, we already saw what happened to other games who are like play to earn. They kind of breed farmers, or the gamers who just like play for the economic incentive, and we already saw that once the value of the token drops, players immediately leave the game, and I don't think any game will succeed in doing the economic balance for if you're a play and earn, the play to earn. Like I don't think that it's possible for have the economic balance to do that to retain the players. Like if you keep on doing the play to earn, so for me, it's play and earn. Where the gameplay is the most important, because if you created a game that it's enjoyed by your community, regardless of the market that we have, especially now that we're sort of like in a bear market, players will still play because they are focused on the entertainment that the game brings, not not the incentive. So
Yeah, points here with regards to the requirements to enjoy the game and to play the game. I think we should also consider the barrier of entry that the games currently have right now, wherein you have to purchase quite some costly NFTs to go into, and hoping that moving forward, if there would be games in the future that would capture a bigger market we're in, not just it would grab the audience from Web2, wherein there would be a free to play opportunities to test out the game. And if players such as us would be interested in digging into the game itself, then we could spend some more on our own, let's say, valuation of our tolerance or budget.
Um, I heard Ishiki mention esports as part of his response, and I'm curious kind of where you see esports kind of fit into this picture of kind of playing for the sake of the game as opposed to financial incentives.
Well, it's the competitive nature is sort of in our human nature. So I believe it's quite yeah. It's just the fun of the game. You know what fun are you having if you're just playing for yourself, right? And if you're playing against people it just makes the whole experience more rewarding, right? Without even a financial reward. Of course, if you have esports, a financial reward is still there, right? But it's really getting together, being social, and actually having fun with the game, and trying to achieve something. And with blockchain gaming and blockchain gaming guilds coming together, I think it's a huge opportunity that has not been explored yet. Obviously, esports is nothing new, but in the blockchain gaming space, with guilds coming together, which has never been the case before, with the financial incentives and the crypto space, I think that's the next frontier. At least for those games that are able to put that in place. A good example is, for example, Eve.io. It's a Solana blockchain first-person shooter, and you can simply go in your web browser, play the game, and they're already hosting tournaments. So that just helps spread the word about the game as well.
Just a quick comment that yes, agree that the competition is one very good way to make the game social, but there are other social mechanics you can have, like cooperative play more on the games as well, and that's also social. But definitely I see the Web3 space as very social because the communities are so strong. And that's something that has actually amazed me, like coming from more traditional gaming industry to kind of the new Web3 space, that just how strong and active the communities are here. That's great to see.
I want to kind of open up kind of a tangent avenue here. What kind of games, what kind of types of games do you think kind of lend to this experience? Are there certain types of games, Ishiki, I think you mentioned FPS, as an example, are there a certain type of games that, lend themselves better to Web3? We've seen a lot of trading card games as kind of early adopters. We're starting to see a little bit more FPS. We're starting to see a little bit of RPG. Are there certain types of games that kind of just lend themselves better? Do you see kind of a future behind, certain types of games, or is it just a matter of time and then everybody will equally adopt?
I think a lot of game. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I think there could be a lot of types of games that'll make it. But each type of game may have to have a different like economic design. So I mean, I think that there's a way to adapt, an economy with gameplay depending on the type of game. And I don't think any types of games are fundamentally, cannot use blockchain, but they may have to use blockchain in very different ways depending on, is it a huge open world thing? Is it a competitive PvP game? Is it a single person, like more relaxed game where you're, I don't know, like a simple farming kind of game. I don't know. There's a lot of different types of games, but it's more like each team is going to have to really think through what makes sense, what parts of blockchain technology make sense for our gameplay.
Based on probably on history and what we've seen, probably by watching Twitch, is like there are only, I believe, like number one would definitely gonna be MOBA, multi online battle arena. Secondly, probably is like the new like Fortnite VR battle royale games, and I would say FPS would be part of it. And like someone mentioned earlier, is that most of the games that we're seeing on Web3 right now is like on the probably it comes from like Hearthstone, or rather any card games. So what I believe that would definitely gonna work, especially with the esports side, is that if there gonna be someone or a developer that could be able to make like MOBA games that very accessible to each and everyone, is like there is always going to be a bottleneck in between someone who can pay or who can buy to a certain gamers, because what I believe, the gamers really starts as early as probably like 10 to 12 years old, and most of the time those were the age that doesn't have the capacity to be able to go against someone who can be able to buy such an NFT that costs like around what, $1,000 for you to be very competitive. So if we could be able to have someone who can make an ecosystem of game that would separate the competitiveness of the game into something that you don't really need to pay. Probably play and earn would be the way to go. Is like you start with you start the game by just simply enjoying it, and if you grind enough, probably you can earn. But that's not what you want. You want to be competitive. You want to play against each and everyone in a very fair in fairness. Like doesn't matter if that person, well, most of the time on the Web2 games is like your money can only give you specific skins, or you just have some cosmetics in order for you to show that I can pay. But on Web3, that's a different story. It's like you have the money and the capacity to buy certain NFTs that is somehow or sometimes game breaking, which is probably the bottleneck that I've been seeing specifically on esports, because not everyone, or at least those whales, or rather the persons who can definitely buy those what I call expensive NFTs.
And speaking of whales, I think MMORPG is a good where you can host some esports tournament like guild versus guild, so that yeah, so many guilds will join, and for sure they will find players that will represent their guild, something like that.
Yeah, I feel no matter the game you have, you need to make sure that it's accessible to gamers. And putting a huge roadblock in front of gamers by having to pay for an NFT is unwise, I would say. There's definitely a lot of opportunity for games to put free-to-play elements into their games so that players can at least check it out and then get invested before they even make a purchase. Or otherwise, alternatively, of course, offer a lending protocol for guilds to come in to purchase those NFTs and then rent those out to players so that they can actually enjoy the game for free.
Yeah, I also believe that there will be many different genres covered by the Web3 games, and they will be offered also for all types of players. Also, of course, there's competitive players. There's also social players who are playing because of the other people there. There are achievers who just want to achieve everything in the game, and then there's the explorers who want to just explore the game. And there's these different gamer or player stereotypes have been there for quite a while, and I can definitely see that there can be games that are targeting all of them in some way, or focused on some areas, but definitely well, what was just said previously as well, it's a matter of everyone thinking through then, like, how does it fit for this type of a game to be on a Web3. And I don't know if strategy game was mentioned, but like a real-time strategy definitely is one. We have one out already, so that's definitely one genre already there. But I do see it growing, and I do see it covering a big portion of like what people are playing. I don't think it will cover everything. I mean, gaming industry is so vast, and there's so many different models, and like it's like a joke that PC gaming is dying, because people 20 years ago saying a console comes out, like no one will play on PC, or no one will play on this or that, or free to play will be everything. It's still not everything. Like free to play is quite dominating right now, but I mean there's still a lot of other monetization models as well. So I don't think everything will be blockchain, but definitely it's gonna cover a lot of area in different genres.
One thing that I heard is kind of a recurring theme is that it's a little bit expensive for newcoming players to jump into some of these games, and players with a little bit more capital can kind of have a bit of an advantage and kind of create disincentives for new players to jump in. Is Web3 gaming in a position where we're doing pay to win? Or and do you see kind of a gravitation towards free to play to kind of correct that misbalance?
I don't think free to play will sort of correct that balance. It's more of an entry point for people to actually experience the game before they invest. But in general, it's very difficult to balance games with, let's say a MOBA, you have different heroes, right? And you have legendary heroes that may be more expensive. But those heroes shouldn't be a game breaker, no matter how expensive they are. A good player that buys a common hero off the floor or rents a common hero from a guild should still be able to win the game. But yeah, that's critical to every game's development to figure out that balance for themselves.
Yeah, I agree with Ishiki that it shouldn't be. I don't think also that being a free to play will solve the balance issues. It's really more about the game itself. I mean, even if, for example, if there's a card or an NFT that gives you an unfair advantage, even if you are a free to play game, there will still be imbalances. So it's not about the entry point, but rather it's how the game works. So yeah.
Any kind of high level tips that you guys can kind of suggest to those building based on kind of your own experience with respects to kind of things to avoid to kind of avoid this disbalances?
Yeah, I mean, if you're having like a legendary character in your game, right, make sure that it's actually, a unique character that people will be wanting to play because of its uniqueness that others might not have, and not because of its, stats that are higher or the winning percentage that is higher. They should just be the most unique and interesting. And I'm okay with games putting in like a bit of a increased stat for legendary, but by any means it shouldn't be game breaking at all.
For me, hire somebody who's already a pro player. This is what I love with one of the games that I play, Magic the Gathering. There are R&D. A lot of the members of R&D are former pro players of the game. So, not so this when they release new products, these players can really catch like the bugs or the broken combos that you will be you might not see because you're focused more on building the game. But yeah, having this type of people on your side will open up will sort of help you with thinking or with seeing how the community thinks. So that's, I think, one of the tips.
Yeah, I agree. But like building and nurturing your community is by far the most important in the space. And another benefit that Web3 brings is you can have DAOs, right? You can have DAOs form around your community, and that you can have a beta testing DAO, alpha patch testing DAO before those updates are actually being rolled out to the complete public. Definitely give your community a voice at all time.
I start to see that we're having questions from the audience. I want to ask you guys to hold it for just 5 or so minutes. I'm going to ask one last question, and then we're going to take questions from the audience. So do save those questions, or we're going to take them in just 5 minutes. But to kind of close out the speaker portion, I would like to ask kind of where does everybody see Web3 games going in the near future?
I guess I kind of said that already, that that my vision is that it's in all different genres. I think it's gonna take a couple of years now, 2 to 3 years, and we will see kind of it already being very big for the industry.
Yeah, I agree. I think what we're going to see over the next 2 years is that the industry is going to mature, games will improve, and we're going to learn the right way to integrate blockchain. And then I think that we'll start seeing gamers start to pay attention. And I'd say about 2 years from now, when the games in the blockchain industry start being a little bit more polished.
Yeah, for me, I think Moonray already said this that soon there will be no Web 2 or Web 2 slash Web 3 games. It will be just gaming. And yeah, I agree that the industry hopefully will mature and soon they will find out like the earlier question, what would be the best formula with regards to balancing gameplay and economics.
But there's a lot of improvement that's going to happen, and I think there will be, yeah, I think the innovation will not stop. So I guess Web3 is gonna be big in the next few years.
Yeah, I think most of what has been talked about it has already been addressed here. But I do think in the future, and I agree with Elena and RJ here, the Web 2 and Web 3 split will not really be as visible anymore as a gamer. You're going to go into your game and it's just going to be all there. You're not going to know what blockchain the game operates on. You're going to have your login, and that's combined with your wallet in game, and that's where you can trade from. And in terms of development for games, we're seeing games are being more and more polished, more further along in their development than others. So really looking forward to seeing some, even AAA games coming to the blockchain space.
Awesome. I'm gonna start taking some questions from the audience. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. I will call you up. Please shortly introduce yourself and then ask your question. And first up is Dialectic Research. Dialectic, you can now speak.
Hi. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to let me speak. I'm Lorenzo. I'm the co-founder of Dialectic Research. We pretty much do research analysis of Web3 and crypto projects that we like. And we have been covering a lot of the blockchain gaming. We have been covering all the biggest projects from, if I can name a few, like Orrery, Guild of Guardians, last one is Big Time. So a lot of these very big projects which have a lot of experienced team members inside their project. And one thing that scares me the most is that I know Web3 is kind of this new industry, and we pretty much are all aligned on the possibilities that this type of industry will unlock for both blockchain gaming and a lot of normal aspects. Look at DeFi or whatever. But the thing that scares me the most is that the gaming industry right now is a working industry. So it has like super scary numbers in terms of growth. Like if you see on year-over-year growth, it's scary, especially on the mobile ones. So why would you change radically an industry that is already working? Like why don't people start by, I don't know, like including only NFT into the game and then building the mass economy that's behind this. I don't want to call play and learn because we already know the system doesn't work. It's just non-sustainable as of now. But the thing is, why isn't it possible for game dev to just introduce step by step what are the Web3 technologies into an already working industry, which is the gaming industry, and then step by step create what is a mass economy behind the game? Because like creating a mass economy is just insanely hard. And then what happens, look at Axie Infinity. Everyone was starting like, okay, I will play Axie Infinity because it gives me money. And it maybe give me, a chance to live by playing, which is not possible because the whole mass economy thing in Axie Infinity is just, not working. So the thing is, why do we have to change that much an industry that is already working?
Lots of controversial, lots of controversial thoughts there. Anybody want to jump on that?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. sorry, a quick thought first. Yeah, so I mean, gaming industry needs innovation. Like there are every once in a while there are these big shifts, like new platforms coming, and like when the first Facebook gaming happened first time 10 years ago, and the first Facebook game started to make it big. I remember there was a lot of like disbelief within the gaming industry, like, and these are not really even games. Like this is just we're just clicking some buttons in Facebook, and for example, the company called Zynga was born back then, and there were some big companies born, and free to play was the same thing. When free to play came out as a model, it was also a bit of disbelief and like, okay, so what is this thing? Can this be good? Can we use this for something? I mean, what it is? And so I think gaming industry in itself, like always, is ready for innovation, and there are always new technologies when they are coming as well. Whether it's VR, XR, or something, it's always gaming is there in the forefront of experimenting and trying out new things. So I don't think this is kind of Web3 technologies are any different from the gaming industry getting like, oh hey, there's this new thing. How can we adapt this, and how can it benefit for the games? Yeah. So I think that's kind of one thing that the innovation overall is important, and also one thing that often happens in these big breakthroughs is that often there are also like new companies coming that are more fast. I mean, they're faster to innovate, basically. I mean, a lot of the existing big companies have very functioning, as you said, very functioning business ongoing. So for them to jump head on to something new it's more bigger risk, that because they already have something that functions very well. So why would they very suddenly move that? So yeah, I think there are obviously big companies also moving and looking into the space, but there's also a lot of newer companies that are doing a lot of innovation.
Yeah, I mean, I would just jump in real quick. I mean, I think everything that Elena said is totally true and accurate. I mean, the blockchain is a new technology. It's going to be very disruptive to certain business models. So companies that have a working business model all the time when a new technology enters into a market. One of the best examples from recent history is Blockbuster Video and Netflix. Any of you that are grew up in the U.S. or know about the U.S., Blockbuster Video was the largest video rental chain in the United States. They had a Blockbuster store where you could rent DVDs and VHS tapes everywhere in the country. When Netflix started, there's a very famous story. The Netflix guys at the very beginning went to Blockbuster to do a collaboration, to do a deal. They said, "Hey, we're mailing DVDs in the mail," and Blockbuster said, "Why would we do that? We're Blockbuster Video. We have a store everywhere in the United States." Well, Blockbuster doesn't exist now. So Blockbuster should have cannibalized their own business. They should have seen that this was a new technology. Just the idea of mailing DVDs, never mind streaming. I mean, streaming is a completely different thing. And that's how blockchain is right now with the traditional game industry. Everything works until it doesn't. The gaming industry right now is booming. We talk to traditional game companies. We think that they're basically, the blockchain is kind of like the Wild West, and they're just a little afraid of what's going on. And they look at what they've done. Their executives have all spent the last 20 years having success with a certain business model. They're not going to change, but that's why there's opportunity for new companies. But I think whoever asked the question is right, that the right way to do it is you do it step by step by step. The problem that we're seeing now is that everyone has like this gold rush mentality, and people try and jump in and they make enormous promises and they launch a token and they do a big NFT sale, and then they start thinking about a game. And that's not the right approach. I think what's going to happen over the next few years is you're going to see companies learn how to integrate elements of gaming and elements of blockchain the right way. And then we are going to see, I think we're going to look back in 5 years and realize that blockchain was a very disruptive technology, and it totally changed the economics of gaming, for most games. Traditional games are going to survive. There's always going to be a market for that. I mean, you can still buy records, for a record player. That market is still big. Regular games are going to survive, but this is going to change the economics of the industry in a very fundamental way when we learn to use it correctly.
I think I'm gonna, pour some more fuel on the fire. One of the things that we've been hearing is that games take a long time to develop. You gotta kind of develop a game and not rush the NFT sales, right? But at the same time, two of maybe the biggest projects over the past 3 months in terms of kind of user and kind of community awareness have been, Bored Apes and then Moonbirds, right? Projects that went kind of NFT first and, building and kind of planning kind of into the future. So how do we reconcile this, right? Is that kind of an outlier, or or are we kind of seeing kind of a new economic model, as you said, evolving that takes that into account as well?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. So games do take a long time to develop, but we are seeing a trend where games release iterative gameplay, right? So they'll start with an alpha that is usable, and then go into the beta. And the difficulty for that is even in alpha and beta, it takes a long time to develop. So you should already. The good news is the projects that we're seeing right now coming out are already way beyond projects that we've seen half a year ago, right? So the trend is definitely going there, and with iterative releases, it can be done. But if you're looking to invest into a game like that, just make sure the team is has experience on their board. Again, a game is unlikely to be great and massive and successful if it's a team of 10 people or so.
By the way, for those that are just jumping in, you can ask questions. So yeah, if you want to ask a question, just raise your hand and we'll call you up. In terms of kind of the new economic model, kind of do you see kind of fundraising and community building kind of taking over as kind of a core component? And how do you see kind of right now there's at least in DeFi, right, we started out with kind of DAO building and kind of at least the thought of passing over kind of ownership to the community. Do you see communities owning game universes at any point in the future?
So we actually see this happening in games like Star Atlas. At least that's the grand vision, right? And we can also see it in other projects such as Portals, which is a Metaverse project that allows their users, or puts the tools into the hands of their users to actually go ahead and create their own levels and maps. And definitely that's an area where blockchain can shine, because projects can now incentivize their own community to grow the game with them, rather than the traditional gaming space where that wasn't possible. So certainly I do see that being possible in the future. It is always the question of how grand are you trying to be? Like, are you trying to map a planetary system with the help of your community? That's probably not going to work, right? But if you're going step-by-step approach, and you start by getting your community into it with maybe you have your community come up with content, for example, right, and that helps the game along as well. So definitely community is a big part of games development, and making sure that you have the resources available while at the same time growing your community, which is important.
Okay, I'll ask one last question and then we'll close it up unless there are questions from the audience. Right now, and I understand some of you will be biased because some of you are building games. But what is kind of your game to watch, or your kind of your community to watch for the foreseeable future?
I hate to be first again, but we've recently been working. The Equinox Guild has been working with Apeiron. Apeiron is a godlike simulator. Maybe some people would remember Black and White, which was also a god simulator. Basically, you create your own planet, and you have dudes, little dudes that work on your planet, and you can, whether you're a good god or a bad god, you can help your dudes out, and your planet's properties will actually change depending on how you control your planet. So that's definitely Apeiron is one to watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll have to do the the plug here that yeah, we just released the Desotopia battles last week, so definitely that would be something to watch. It's in cooperation with GIF Games, so it's a new game on the Tesos chain that has just launched, but so far all looking good.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for sharing. I think we're at the top of the hour, and I don't see any questions from the audience right now, so I think this would be a good stopping point. I want to thank all of the speakers for joining us for this panel. This was really insightful, and I really appreciate all of your thoughtful answers. And I want to thank everybody from the audience who jumped in. We will be sharing this talk as a podcast after the fact. And would be tune in for the next week's edition. We will be talking about trading card games, and yeah, hope to see you all there. And thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you very much.